Have you ever decided you're going to learn something totally new? Maybe a language, or pick up a guitar, or, a new skill for your job. It's a journey we all take at some point, right? And it can be super exciting, but also, let's be honest, really frustrating. But in the end, it can totally transform you. So what does that journey really look like? From that first little spark of an idea, all the way to that big breakthrough moment? Well, let's dive in and find out.
So yeah, what does it really take? I mean, is it just about being naturally talented or getting lucky? Or is there something else, something deeper that any of us can actually tap into? To figure that out, let's follow the story of one person's journey.
Every big journey, every life-changing decision, it always boils down to a single moment. It's that one point where you just decide, okay, I'm doing this. For a guy named Daniel, this was that moment. And honestly, it changed absolutely everything for him.
All right, let's get into it. Part 1, the dream begins. Because every big change has to start somewhere, right? And for Daniel, it all kicked off with a feeling I think we've all felt before. Just plain old frustration.
So this was Daniel's life, right? Pretty straightforward. Lived in a small town, the alarm goes off early, he goes to work, comes home tired. Rinse and repeat. It was a simple life, a predictable loop. And look, it's a life a lot of us can relate to. It's stable, it's safe, but you know that feeling? Sometimes it just feels like something's missing.
And then, bam, the spark. He's just sitting there one evening, trying to watch a video or something, and he just can't understand it. And that feeling hits him, that sharp sting of frustration. But here's the key. Instead of just shrugging it off and moving on, he actually held on to that feeling. And it morphed into this really clear, powerful thought. Why can't I understand this? I want to learn English.
And he didn't just let it be a fleeting thought. No, he acted on it. He actually took out a notebook and he wrote it down. My goal, I want to speak English fluently. And just like that, he made it real. He gave it weight. This was the real start of his journey.
Okay, on to part 2, the first words. Because, after you make that big decision, you actually have to do something. And every huge, ambitious goal has to start with the tiniest, most basic steps. He didn't try to tackle complex sentences. Nope. He just started with one single word, probably just looking at himself in the mirror. Hello?
Then another one. Hi. Look, this wasn't glamorous work, It was just one tiny seed being planted.
And another, thank you. Each of these words was like a single brick. And let's face it, you can't build a massive skyscraper without laying that very first brick.
And of course, right on cue, with those first few steps, comes that little voice in your head, right? That voice of self-doubt. He's standing there feeling kind of shy, thinking, my pronunciation is not good. Sound familiar to anyone?
But, and this is the part that really matters, he didn't stop. He felt that doubt for sure, but he didn't let it win. He just kept going. Every single day, he practiced. And that consistency, that's the real engine that drives all progress.
But all that daily practice, it always inevitably leads you to part 3, the difficult moment. Oh yeah, this is the stage where the real test starts. It's that first big wall you have to figure out how to climb. And boom, the complexity just skyrockets. Saying, my name is Daniel, feels pretty straightforward. It's like a solid bridge you can walk across. But then he runs into a sentence with way more complicated grammar, and suddenly, it's like he's totally lost in a maze. This is that classic moment where you just feel completely and utterly overwhelmed. And so, he asks himself that question that, let's be real, every single learner asks at some point. Why is this so difficult? He was tired. He felt like giving up. This is what they call the valley of despair in the learning process, and it is a tough place to be. But then, he remembered his goal. He remembered that piece of paper. And he made a choice, a conscious decision. I will not stop. I will continue. And that moment, that decision to push through when everything feels like a failure, that's what really makes you stronger. And that newfound strength, it pushes him right into part 4, the first conversation. Okay, this is the real test now. This is the moment where all that practice you do by yourself has to finally face the real world.
So after about 3 months, Daniel works up the courage to join an online English group. And you can just imagine how he felt, right? His heart was just pounding in his chest. So nervous, so afraid he was going to make a mistake. And then it happens. Someone asks him a super simple question. Hello, what is your name? But for Daniel,
Right then and there, that simple question felt like the biggest, most important question in the entire world. And for a beat, he just freezes. He pauses. You can imagine everything just swirling around in his head, all the practice, all the doubt, all the hope, and he just takes a deep breath. And then he says it, "My name is Daniel." And it worked. The other person understood, they replied. This was it, his first real conversation. I mean, what a huge, massive breakthrough. You know, a breakthrough like that, it isn't just a one-time thing. It's really the start of the final stage. Which brings us to part 5, the transformation. This is the payoff for all of that hard work.
So fast forward 1 year from the day he first wrote that goal down. Daniel is a totally different person. His world has just opened up. He can actually speak with confidence now. He can understand those videos that used to frustrate him so much. He can have real conversations and connect with people. He did it. He actually did it.
Imagine him looking back at that old notebook and just smiling to himself with this quiet, deep satisfaction, thinking, I did it. It wasn't magic, was it? It was just practice, patience, and a whole lot of courage.
So, when we really look at Daniel's whole journey, the lessons are so clear, aren't they? It really just boils down to this. You gotta start small. You have to practice every day. You can't be afraid to make mistakes. You have to keep going, especially when it gets difficult. And maybe most importantly, through all of it, you have to believe in yourself.
You know, Daniel's story, it's not really just about learning English, is it? It's about the journey of trying to achieve any goal that really means something to you. So that brings me to one last question, and this one's for you. What journey will you decide not to give up on today?